Hey, fellow Texans, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Our top story of the day, the Karmelo Anthony team hosts a press conference, and it's a political activist holding the press conference. It's not like the top defense attorney in DFW holding a press conference. It's a guy with a political network, the Next Generation Action Network. Oh, great. Great. This is what we're inserting into this? So you know exactly where it goes. Let me just play like a few seconds from the end of the press conference here, where, you know, there were some race cards implied at several occasions, and then it was just flat out dropped on several occasions as well.
Black people in America, while the current occupant sits at 1600 Pennsylvania, black people in America don't have to pull the race card. It's what we live as a reality every day. It's what we have to teach our children. We don't want to, but we have to. We don't like to, but if we want to sleep at night, we got to.
You got to, yeah.
I ain't pulling no race card. I live it.
What do you have to teach your kids? Hey, if someone grabs your arm, you better just knife them right in the heart? Is that what you have to teach your kids? Or if you teach your kids, hey, if you're going to kill someone, I think the lesson here, like between the Wilmer Hutchins shooting and the Frisco one, hey, as long as you kill someone who we hate based on the color of their skin, we can raise millions, $500,000 at least off of it. If you're gonna go to prison for killing somebody, make it worth your while, and kill outside of our political preferences. Is that what the lesson is here? What are you talking about? You're not the one getting stabbed in the heart. You're not the victim here. I don't know. That upsets me a little bit, doesn't it? 800-288-9227. Let's try Isaac in Fort Worth. Hey, Isaac, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yeah, I understand your feelings, because in the past I've been upset when, Trayvon Martin was killed, and you guys questioned his parents' background, just like you're doing with Karmelo's background. You never questioned when Kyle Rittenhouse got $2 million, but you want to question the $500,000 and what the parents are doing with this GoFundMe fund that he's receiving. All this is on your part, you're doing just the opposite. You're doing the same race game and race baiting as other people are doing on the other side. And we should sit back and wait to see what the trial and what the results are and accept it. But again, we can play the race card both ways.
Explain to me why this guy has raised $500,000, but every other black person that murders someone, as long as they're also black, they don't get to raise any money.
Yeah, they can raise money if they had the...
but they don't, do they?
Do so.
How much has the Wilmer Hutchins shooter got? How much has that Wilmer Hutchins shooter raised?
I'm about to answer your question. Because this case is not as clear as many people make it. You have a kid who was, by reports, were invited to a tent. The other kid who did not participate on the track team told him, by the police report, to remove himself from the tent. And then he physically got into an altercation with the other kid. Now, whether or not the twin brother got involved, we don't know that. But I'm willing to sit back and see what the results are. But those conditions right there, yeah, people going to say, let me donate money. Will I donate money? Probably not. But I can see why other people would. Why people gave money to Kyle Rittenhouse.
So Kyle Rittenhouse was given money because we actually had video that we had already seen and knew that he was an innocent guy. We also have a lot of people who were happy with seeing someone actually stand up for these neighborhoods that were being destroyed by Antifa and BLM. There was a larger movement of dozens of riots that were going on, where billions of dollars of small businesses and lives and families were being destroyed every weekend like it was some sort of hobby. And in the one time when some guy stands up for himself and he shoots 3 people who attacked him, 2 of which weren't like 2 of them pedophiles and one of them was a domestic abuser. I mean, they tried to kill him. They were armed. He got hit in the back of the head with a skateboard. That last guy pulled a gun on him before he pulled the trigger. And so, no, we don't see much of a connection here between a guy who was literally defending his life and another guy who stabbed a fellow human being in the heart for grabbing his arm.
Then the same guy drove at least 30 minutes to go to an area late at night where he could have stayed at home as a 17-year-old. He had an AR, then he have an AR, and then he shot 3 people. And the other guy, regardless of fact, before I forget, by the way, you guys bring up criminal history and you question the parents. first of all, you said that because the mom doesn't have the same last name, that he comes from a broken home. Then you find out, no, indeed, he has two parents at the house.
No. But it's not his biological mom and dad. See, you're doing the same obfuscating.
He has two parents.
Listen.
Allow me to say this, and you go ahead, because this is your show, and I really enjoyed listening to you. You don't check, like you do in the past with Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown. You check their parents' background. How about you check the Metcalf dad background? Because I heard that he has a criminal history as well. But you guys won't mention that, too.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about him because his kid didn't stab another kid in the heart. That's why we're not all suspicious.
Trayvon did not shoot George Zimmerman, but you guys still check his background.
Trayvon Martin beat him, attacked him first, initiated.
How do we know, sir? How do we know? Because he's in his neighborhood walking home.
Because that's what was adjudicated in court. Because we already had the trial. We already had the due process. We already know. Trayvon Martin attacked him. Trayvon Martin was beating his head on the concrete. We saw the wounds to George Zimmerman's head when he got to the police station. We know George Zimmerman was in a fight for his life. We already know that. He didn't just have his arm grabbed. And on the two-parent household, pay attention, Isaac. It's not the fact that they have two parents in the household. It's the biological mother and father. It's not, and it's single parent household, but it's also step parent households. It's the number one predictor for abuse in children is having a step parent in the household.
What do you think is the number one predictor of there being child abuse in a home?
An absent parent.
Very reasonable answer. And so usually in lecture one, when I'm teaching an evolution psychology course, I'll ask this question and I'll start putting all the students' answers. And they're all reasonable answers. If there is alcoholism in the home, if one of the parents had been abused in their past so that they mimic that behavior onto their children, then all reasonable. Well, what if and by the way, no one guesses what the real answer is. The number one predictor is 100-fold more predictive than anything that's on that board. So let me explain what 100-fold means. In science, when let's say you have, I want to check the efficacy of a drug.
Let me skip through this part to the end.
Anything we would tip. Well, the number one parent in the family, Stephen, I've kept you in suspense long enough, is if there is a step parent in the family. So there's 100-fold increase in child abuse if the home is not made up of two biological parents.
There it is. There's 100-fold increase in abuse if the household isn't made up of two biological parents. Can we have that conversation? If you're just joining us, you may want to put on your shoes because we're walking on hot coals in here. It's a very touchy subject. There was a very touchy press conference that happened about noon our time. Karmelo Anthony's team hosted a press conference, and it was held by a local black activist, Dominic Alexander. So this whole thing, we've just taken unleaded gasoline and thrown it on fire, and it's just blown up. Race cards are flying everywhere. Now we've got to deal with this whole specter instead of it just being a calm, let's do the due process thing. No, we're headed toward riots, I guess. Is that what's next? 800-288-9227. Chris Denton, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yes, sir. I had 20 years law enforcement experience outside New York City and northern New Jersey. I crossed paths with Al Sharpton several times without incident. This guy is modeling himself after that, and that's a dangerous situation. One thing I noticed in the press conference, Metcalf was very calm, cool, collected. But what he did not say...
Metcalf?
They tried to remove him. Metcalf. What Metcalf did not say...
Oh, well, you're talking about the dad being there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What Metcalf did not say was the first time they asked him to leave was, put your hands in me and find out what happens. They were intimidated so badly that they needed him removed because in fear that he might say something and ruin their whole press conference. They're going to do this, I think, a couple more times with situations that may arise or may be in their imagination.
So Dominic Alexander stressed that there will not be another press conference. There will not be another press availability. They are not doing this again. This is sort of a one-off thing. We're going to let due process run its course from here on out. But you're predicting, Chris, that there's going to be more?
Yeah, that's a tactic that Al Sharpton used. We had a shooting in Teaneck, New Jersey, and the downtown area was set on fire. Police cars overturned. I was there, and he did a couple more after that. So,
you know what? I believe that, Christopher. I appreciate you calling in with your law enforcement expertise. I appreciate that. Thanks, Chris.
You're very welcome.
Next up, Al Garland. Hey, Al, what's going up in the land of Gar?
Everything's fine. But now, even if we take this family at its word that none of that money was spent on their new residence or automobile. If my son is fighting for his life, who's got time to go car shopping or shopping for a new residence? I'm spending every minute of every day trying to make sure my son is okay.
Well, that's if it's true. I don't even know if they really got into a new house or they got a car. I was kind of hoping that they would address that directly instead of this indirect garbage that they tried to pull at the press conference. Why don't you say we didn't get a new house? We didn't get a new car. They didn't say that. They said we haven't used the direct funds from Give, Send, Go on a car or house. Well, okay, but did you get a new car or house? Because money's fungible. If you knew you were going to come into $500,000, maybe you would go ahead and get that lease on the Escalade, or maybe you go ahead and move into that bigger new house. And the problem, I think that a lot of us are making the connection here is your son's life is on the line. Do you not value another human being's life in that family more so than a car or a house? Or, oh, I get it. This is how this kid is able to stab another human being in the heart. He doesn't make a connection to the value of a human life across other bodies. This is an empath almost here.
Well,
is that the right word?
Also,
an empath?
These folks' legal team, they are PR idiots. I would tell my folks, keep a low profile, don't buy anything. We're not buying anything. Here, take my car. Come move into my house. But we aren't, I saw pictures of an Escalade. It could have at least been a Prius. I'm a black man.
Could have got like a 2016 Corolla or something.
Right.
I hear you. But they don't actually refute the charges here. They say, well, we didn't spend that Give, Send, Go money on private security. Right. The family didn't pay for that private security. So you're telling me you got private security. That's what you tell. Somebody's spending money on it, and they're not doing it out of altruism. Anyway, Thank you very much, Al. You're making great points. Let's go Aaron in Garland, also in Garland, staying in Garland. What do you think, Aaron?
It's Karen.
Oh, Karen.
Yes, I had a couple points to make. Number one, I thought it was very interesting that she never really said she was sorry to the other family. She did have that one small sentence about her heart went out to it. But a couple points that I wanted to make was in the opening statements from the activist, he mentioned the ISD and how they probably shouldn't have had the track meet because of the weather, which I thought was
oh my God. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard that.
I definitely did. And for those of you who didn't, he's like, I got another question. Are you going to have a track meet knowing the weather's this bad? There's the reports. You can go look up how bad the weather was. I know. So if it's raining at a track meet, I guess that's a stabbing, Aaron or Karen.
I guess so. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting was the mom's statement. There was actually a phrase in there where she mentioned the Metcalf brothers and her son, which I think is laying some of the ground for the self-defense because they're going to claim that it was the 2-on-1.
He got jumped. There was a physical altercation. Yeah, so that's a stabbing. That's a stabbing. Someone tried.
That's a stabbing.
Yeah.
I miss the days of fistfights. I grew up in that era where it was fistfights. Everybody walked away. You might have bumps and bruises. You walked away. Nowadays, you can't have a fist fight. It's somebody has to die because you don't agree with something they say or something they do, and it's just ridiculous. But I thought that those points were kind of interesting, especially the one about the ISD. They also mentioned when he said about the press conferences, he said he wasn't going to have any more press conferences except for trial, but he also mentioned that he was going to have press conferences because of the ISD.
Oh, yeah, so you know what? Good catch. He did say that they're going to continue pursuing that because one of their grievances, if you're just joining us, is that he's been expelled from school, and that's not fair because he's just a couple months from graduating and he has a great GPA, and you can't ruin a kid's life just because he gets a little stabby at a track meet. But we're talking about here locally the press conference that happened with Karmelo Anthony's team. Dominic Alexander, who's a known entity to quite a few of our all-day listeners here. Let me play another little clip here that's getting a lot of comments here. He invokes, he's played the race card here, but he also invokes the fact that he's a minister, which is kind of icky, sort of sus.
We have not attacked. We have not shared the information that was shared with us about Austin Metcalf because we respect the dignity of life and loss. And as a minister, I would not attack a grieving family, even if I disagree with them. When I have stood before this podium for people who have died at the hands of law enforcement, I have asked for that same manner of respect. And even when the shoe is on the other foot, I will not do that. And all I'm going to say, so it don't be asked later, is that was disrespectful and just shows you all the character who is not invited. He knows that it's inappropriate to be near this family.
Oh, he's talking about the dad of Austin Metcalf. If you're just joining us, you don't know the backstory. Before the press conference, the dad of Austin Metcalf showed up. He was asked, could you leave, please? He's like, no, this is a public event. I'd prefer to stay. And so they had to have the police escort him out. And who made that comment earlier? In fact, was that an email about that? Or no, was that another? Here it is. This was on a Facebook Messenger. When they asked the Metcalf dad to leave, when they grabbed his arm and asked him to leave a place where he wasn't invited, did he stab anybody? Did that happen? 800-288-9227. This is Donald in Mineral Wells. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Donald?
Well, I just think that in today's society, there is no humility in these situations. There's no personal accountability. Throughout this whole thing, everything I've heard on it, the young man who did the stabbing, his family, none of them have made any kind of statement about how sorry they are for the situation, that it was an accident or anything like that. It was just automatically go to defensive maneuvers in order to divert the attention away from the true thing was, he acted in, I guess, passion or intently did that on purpose, and it's being deflected on all points. He shouldn't have had a knife. He shouldn't have had a knife at a track meet. All of this, none of that matters. The fact is, in the instance that he felt like he needed to diffuse that situation, he pulled a weapon. It could have been an ink pen. It could have been a 16-penny nail. It could have been anything. And he made the conscious decision to take another person's life. And that's what everything is being. I feel like that's all being overlooked at this point.
And your theory, how is he capable of such things? Was he just born a psychopath? Is he a kid who has had a traumatic upbringing and it just manifested itself in this act of violence? Or do you have an opinion?
Man, I've raised 4 kids. I'm a stepdad in 2 different relationships. I treat them like they were my biologicals. I don't think there's any way that I would have done any different. And in all of my kids, I've always taught them, when you do something, right, wrong, or indifferent, there are consequences. In the cases where you're doing something wrong or you cause harm to somebody else, the consequence of that is you're gonna get punished. And I see every day my kids do stuff, and they're like, I don't understand why I'm getting punished. And from my point of view, all of the kids their age, high school kids, they're not taught anymore that if you do something wrong, there are consequences.
Well, look,
not going to be good.
Some of them are, but look, I like taking the parent angle on this because when I put myself in that seat, I think the ideal moral thing to do, if that was my kid, if Karmelo Anthony was my kid, first off, turn him into the police. I would be apologizing profusely to the family. I wouldn't go out and admitting guilt. I was like, let's let this self-defense claim play out. But if it doesn't work, you're going to go to jail for 30 years, and that's what you deserve. And it breaks my heart. But you killed another person. You ended a human life over a pretty trifling provocation. And so, I mean, do we as parents, do you really have the ability to just turn your kid in like that just because it's the right thing to do? It's real easy for me to say, kind of hard to criticize the family for doing a full-throated defense and, leaving out some convenient facts and maybe chasing some rabbits. Like, what about the weather? So I'm real hesitant to criticize either family because both of them are going through it right now. But that family did create someone who's capable of homicide, whether it was justified or not. I don't think any of my kids, God, I hope not, are able to take a knife and see another human being and say, I'm just going to put this right in your chest. Right?
And that's the thing is, it was, and I'm assuming an accident. I don't know. We don't know those.
Yeah, I don't know. The accident's kind of hard to fluff off. It's got to be intentional. That's a kill shot through the ribs in the center mass.
That's the thing that got me throughout the whole thing is the likelihood of that being an accident is not likely. Just from the way, and in most situations, if you're going for that target, there's only one outcome that you have in your mind.
Agreed. We all see that. We all see that. Some of us are pretending to not see that. Some of us are donating money to that. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Adrian says over here on Facebook real quick, the house and the car seem to be really funny timing for the situation. That's if they did rent a new house and if they did buy a new car. I've seen the rumors floating around. I don't think it's been confirmed because not a whole lot of people are reporting it, just internet people. But it says, the first thing I would do when my kid is murdered, someone is run out and buy a new car and a new house knowing that I'm going to have big attorney fees. Not suspicious at all. I know, because if that is true, that's pretty damning evidence on this is a family that does not value their fellow human beings like the way the rest of us just assume they did. Pat sent in a Facebook message. Did the mom ever think her daughter is scared to sleep because the son lives in the house also? Yeah, you know what? Probably so. And look, I'm sorry your daughter is uncomfortable sleeping at the 13-year-old daughter. I really do feel sorry for her. Such things are the consequences when you raise a son that's capable of killing a fellow human being over being in the wrong seat, over getting your arm grabbed. When you raise a kid that can plunge a knife into another child's heart, the negative consequences that reverberate through your family aren't going to get a whole lot of sympathy from me. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. They threw gas on the fire big time. And I haven't even got through all the audio cuts. Let me squeeze in one more before we get back to the phone calls here. This is Dominic Alexander. You probably know him from some of his other hits, like, I don't know, maybe the cops being murdered at the BLM riot in Dallas a few years back. But this is what he had to say today.
Okay. What he has failed into is the political operatives that want to make this thing a political...
is hijacking and exploiting this death to further his political activism career. Because all this guy wants to do, his currency is being on TV, and he got it. All he has to do is go out there and throw the race card on a story that definitely doesn't deserve it. Have a press conference where he can be up at the forefront and talk about how great he is and as a minister and all this. This is what he wants. In fact, it'd be even better for him if he could get people so upset that they rioted. And if he could make even more news and be on even more channels, maybe be on MSNBC and CNN, and that's what he's aiming for here. He's not aiming for justice for Karmelo Anthony or for Austin Metcalf or for just the blind, impartial, ethereal concept of justice. This is a PR stunt for Dominic Alexander. 800-288-9227. And he's using racial division to accomplish it. Samantha in Dallas, thanks for hanging on. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Samantha?
Well, I'm just disgusted how everybody's so sympathetic to someone who took a weapon to school and intentionally used it against someone else in a most aggressive, hateful way. And, you chose to take a weapon to a school event. These kids are conditioned every day to, weapons are not permitted at school or school events. So he knew what he was doing. And he could have cut Metcalf, in a way that would just be like a warning or something. But he aggressively targeted vital organs.
Bro, all he had to do was show the knife and they would have left him alone. Yeah, so the stabbing in the heart, totally unnecessary, and an escalation of force, which depending on your interpretation of the police reports, it's not that long of a read. It's 11 pages. I read the whole thing from Frisco on personal gain. Great stuff, Samantha. Thank you. Andrew Mesquite, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
So this narrative that, you and other callers are saying that how can a parent raise a child that is capable of taking another life?
Yes.
And my pushback to that is you don't know what your child is capable of until they do it. You can be raised up in a good household. I'm going to just give you a real life example. The shooting over in Florida. Ask those parents, did you raise your child to go out and shoot? And their answer is going to be, no, that's not how we raise whoever this person is. So this narrative of how can you raise up a child, you don't know what your child is capable of until they do it. And the thing about it is, we don't, like you said, we don't know how all the backstory. We don't have the footage, right? If somebody is not, and I'm not saying it was a mistake, but
here, and you wouldn't have the disparity in crime statistics. Like when you see, if you just take the males, white males age 25, 54, 24 out of 100,000 of them will commit a homicide. For black males age 18 to 24, it's 206 per 100,000. So we're getting into the realm of that's not just, a roll of the dice here. Something's going wrong in the kid raising process in some of these communities.
I don't agree with that, first of all.
What's your explanation for the disparity in numbers?
Well, let's dig a little deeper more, because what you all fail to realize is the majority of violent crimes that's committed is committed by white males.
Not true.
In America.
Not true.
That is absolutely
no,
true.
you're repeating a misinformation. Listen, that came from the Anti-Defamation League. I already know what you're talking about. And when they say the violent extremist killings, they whittled it down to 25 killings 2 years ago, where you could nail down that these people did it based on hateful racism. And when you're talking about 25 people, you also are bringing in the fact that they counted like the Buffalo shooter in that, and who was like an eco-terrorist and wasn't necessarily motivated by race as much as he was motivated by the fertility rate of non-white people. Anyway, I got to go. We got to do a news break. I appreciate you calling in. I'm just out of time. I'm James Parker. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.